ADOS and our allies. You know who it is, Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Friends of ADOS TV channel, bringing you those ADOS hot topics and making the case for reparations and a Black agenda in exchange for our votes this election cycle. Follow in. Start your watch parties. Yes, family. So much is going on. First of all, good evening on the West Coast. Good evening in the Central. Good evening on the East Coast. Thank you so much, family, for joining the live. So much is going on, family. I have been sharing up a storm in Facebook about the puckery of it all. It is really unfathomable that the DNC, the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris continue to give the middle finger to the ADOS. What do I mean by that exactly, family? Well, I've shared in my feed today about how, what's up, Kunta? Thank you so much for joining the live, about how Biden is pouring more money into the military, believes in fracking, and now he and Kamala are head-to-head on the H-1B visas that they are offering as a pathway to citizenship for more of Kamala's Brahmin Indian caste to come to this country and have a pathway to the presidency, obviously, before making ADOS American through those reparations that are owed in the trillions over multi-generations. Yeah, those are some of the hot topics that are happening in the ADOS world just today, or at least my discovery of these events was today. It's all up and down my feed at Angela Nirvana in the Facebook space. And it's just simply out of control that we and our demands are continuing to be ignored. So no one can come up here and say some foolishness like the ADOS is not making demands. We're demanding, they are choosing to ignore the ADOS vote. That's what they're choosing to do while giving other groups a pathway to citizenship before ADOS is American. We've been here since before 1619. What's up, Jay Bird? Thank you so much for joining the live. Yes, since before 1619, we built all of the wealth in this country, and they are determined to tether us to the bottom as the permanent underclass in the country our ancestors built with their lives. That's exactly what's happening right before our eyes. And we didn't choose Biden. We certainly didn't choose Kamala. This is what they're doing because ADOS, the lineage, has made them believe that unseating Trump, whom we did not put into office, is sufficient enough in exchange for our vote. And so I've got to ring the alarm every day about our protest vote, family. Because there are so many sleep ADOS, it's our job to wake them up. That when they vote Democrat this election cycle, especially, not that it hasn't happened in the past, we are signing up for our own peril and demise. That's exactly what we're going to do when you've got a president, a presidential candidate who believes in more war, who inked the Iraq war. Obama dropped 100,000 bombs during his tenure. He dropped so many bombs, they ran out. But now you want to get all in, up and through this election cycle, talking about climate change when you know full well that you and Gavin Newsom's support of fracking is why California, Oregon, Washington is on fire. You guys continue to frack, but want us to run to the polls As if you're concerned about our lives when all you're concerned about is your bottom line. Like I said prior, Barack dropped over 100,000 bombs. I ain't telling you nothing that I'm making up. You can look up everything I'm telling you to understand these drone strikes and all of the mayhem it has caused all over the world in the name of democracy that we don't even get to experience in our own country. We have yet to be American, and that is why the ADOS movement is fighting. And Joe Biden is just following corporate Democrat neoliberal suit. More fracking, more war, and more money into the police. Not dismantle private prisons. I've already shared with you that that's the new slavery. So he's not talking about dismantling private prisons. He's not talking about rehabilitation programs to make our nonviolent offenders whole once released from prison. I think they're given $25 in a bus ticket when they're released. Many of them, sitting in there because they can't afford to bail. They can't afford proper representation. They're all running a racket, working one unto the other to keep our men enslaved. And those of us that are educated out here are having a challenge and a real struggle finding work commensurate with our degrees. I've already shared with you about here in LA. ADOS is $200 liquid, 6% of the population, which has been flattened. That includes Caribbean and African immigrants. Okay. And 44% of us are degreed, but only 6% of us are in the private sector. This is what's happening. So it doesn't matter. Degrees and what do you call these jobs? Uber and the like, they don't close the egregious racial wealth gap that the majority of ADOS is experiencing. And so we are asking for all hands on deck with this protest vote. We absolutely need everyone to vote Green Party top a ticket or leave it blank, because writing in ADOS in another state will get your entire ballot thrown out. And the 42% of ADOS in this country who rely on government assistance cannot afford to lose a Democratic Congress. We must deliver that for them. So you guys need to spread that strategy. The strategy is not because we believe the Green Party can win. The strategy is twofold: to gridlock government for the next 4 years until the Democrats run reparations on their platform, preferably in 2024. We still have a lot of work to do because HR 40 as it stands has no teeth in it for ADOS. And so it is imperative that we slow this Titanic to get the things the ADOS needs in the HR 40 and to kick NARC and NCOBRA off of that bill. Because this is not a Pan-Africanist project. This is exclusively for American descendants of chattel slavery. And anyone that take issue with that, then that's an issue you have to resolve between you and your God. Because we make no apologies for being ADOS first, second, and third. It is time for everyone else to come off the tit. We have taken care of all the other groups. They're doing quite well. Down here in LA, we're 200 liquid to African immigrants, 60,000 liquid, to white folks, 110,000 liquid, to Kamala's Asian Indians, $245,000 liquid. Look up Color of Wealth LA. I'm not just making stuff up to amuse you. It's all in ADOS LA. Okay? That's what's happening here. And then Biden and Kamala can give you specificity around what they intend to do for Hispanic immigrants and DACA. They are doing things for people who are not even citizens yet. Giving them a pathway and access to citizenship before making us American. That's what's happening right now. As the sheeple demand of us that we continue this Titanic all the way to our peril, to our extinction. But the ADOS movement is not on that. We've been studying for years now. After Obama, where we lost 43% of our wealth while he created 1 million white millionaires, we decided to get educated and decided, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. All black folk, all African American ain't American descendant of chattel slavery. Distinction is not division before you go there. Being pro-ADOS is not anti-immigrant, and it's not pro-Trump. It is ADOS first, second, and third for a change. Because I don't see any of the other groups taken to the streets under a huge rallying cry for us to be repaired. They may be out there caping for Black Lives Matter, but in order for Black lives to really matter, reparations must matter. Because being poor makes you a target. Look at the communities in which they're killing. They're not over here doing this nonsense where I stay, 20-minute walk to the beach. They're in the hood. And so it is imperative that we work with a strategy that breaks the back of the establishment. America must fall as we know it. Now I'm going to tell you, you deliver a trifecta this election cycle, it's going to get worse for ADOS while everyone else takes their goodies and go home and be satisfied and at peace. Well, I'm here to tell you this is one time when you want your misery, when you want to socialize being miserable, when you want to socialize your suffering. That's right now during this election cycle. Okay? Our vote is all we've got. We don't have the money to be at the table. Our vote is all we've got, family. We must weaponize it. And if what Kamala and Joe are doing to us doesn't beat all, Canada comes out with a beautiful policy. They're giving $221 million to Black entrepreneurs in Canada. Look it up. $250,000 loans to Black entrepreneurs in Canada. They didn't say minority, people of color, all these ways in which this country masks how they're not doing a thing for ADOS. They tuck it into those terms, which is why we have built a wall around the distinction of ADOS and being ADOS. American descendants of chattel slavery is who we are. Everything else is masking our failure. ADOS Boston, $8 liquid to Caribbean immigrant. Actually, 700 total assets to Caribbean immigrants, 12,000 assets. Down in Miami, ADOS, $11 liquid. So they're looking to replace you with immigrants this election cycle. If the Democrats win, they will be giving access to 11,000 more Hispanics. And guess what? Many of them, the ones that are here, the ones with money, the ones who are white, don't even want Central American refugees over in here. They don't even, it's a dead heat down in Florida, but nobody shames them for choosing to vote for Trump. Nobody shames them or tells them, ooh, your vote has to be used to unseat Trump. That needs to be your priority. How many more years are we going to put out white fires? We didn't put Trump in office. It's not our job to use our only commodity to unseat Trump. It is our job to use that vote with some intellect. And that means making demands. And they are running out of time, quite frankly. If they're not offering not just reparations and a Black agenda, but to dismantle the private prisons and to dismantle qualified immunity and putting some timelines in there like they talk about day one before their first 100 days for immigrants, then you got to cut down the tall trees. That's your job. We've all got a job to do. It's time for everybody to get involved in this movement. You must disrupt this election cycle, or else we will be the only ones suffering while everyone goes home and closes their doors because they will have gotten the farm. When we are the legs of the table that all of them eat from, we created all of the wealth that they profit from, that they return an investment on. So anywho, family, let me get to my book. It's more of the same, family. It's more of the same. Them pushing out the indigenous people to make a place for more plantation farms, to spread slavery in the name of being abolitions. Sounds a lot like the liberal Democrats. Yeah, it's more of the same, but let's get into it. You guys have any comments or questions? You know what to do. Put it in the chat and I'll leave enough room towards the end of the show. What's up? Let me tell, oh my goodness. Beshtash Samseen, thank you for joining the live. Mike Michelson, thank you for joining the live. Oh yes, gig jobs. Thank you, Mike. Gig jobs. Don't close the egregious racial wealth gap. Takes us out of our homes. It's bad enough close to 1 million of our black men are on lockdown. You've taken the strength of the community out, put it behind bars. And now the women are pretty much raising their children single-handedly. And then you want to laden them and burden them with 5 gig jobs in order to get their rents together. And then you wonder why they got psychotic breaks. Black men can barely get work. And black women are close behind that. So this is why we fight. This is exactly why we fight. So once again, these chapters are short. I'm going to read you because this is an important exercise. If you don't understand your history, you are bound to repeat it. I'm reading from Prejudential. This is Black Amerikka and the Presidents, Margaret Kimberley. I'm reading to you how none of the presidents have been for ADOS, even prior to us getting the right to vote in 65. What up, Merritt Mario Holloway? Thank you for joining the live, ADOS Bakersfield. I'm ADOS SoCal, founding member, for those of you who don't know. So I need to let you guys, these are short, very short chapters, but I read this and I make my comments in between because I think you guys are very disillusioned. You have to understand that the Democrats were the ones to take back the 40 acres and a mule. All of this loyalty to a party that is giving you their ass to kiss from inception. From George Washington all the way through Donald Trump. That's what this book covers. I love to read. So this is story time. And I usually give a few comments in between. But tonight we're going over Martin Van Buren from 1837 to 1841. I want to give you a little context. Nat Turner, in 1831, Nat Turner, an enslaved African-American preacher, leads the most significant slave uprising in American history. In 1839, 53 Africans on board the slave ship Amistad revolt against their captors, killing all but 2 crew members. So that is what was going on during Martin Van Buren's very, very short stint in office. I'm sorry. I did Martin Van Buren. Oh, hold on. I'm on William Henry Harrison and John Tyler tonight. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. 1841. Same things were happening around the same time. Margaret. Yes, Margaret Kimberley is a senior editor of the Black Agenda Report. Oh, that's great to know. Thank you for putting that in there, Merritt. Everyone should subscribe to the Black Agenda Report. This book is fire. William Henry Harrison, 1841, served the shortest term in office of any American president. He died just 31 days after his inauguration. His speech was long, evidently too long for a cold, rainy day, and he died from complications of pneumonia 1 month later. Me speaking. When things come to mind, I'm going to share. It is imperative that you early vote and that you drive your ballots through your polling stations. Reach out to your Board of Elections to learn the lay of the land and how you can early vote and drop off the election. On a prior show with Tansy, I disclosed that 28 million votes have disappeared in the last 4 elections. We already know voter suppression is a real thing for the Republicans. This is what they do, especially to the Black vote. I would even venture to say the Hispanic vote, possibly. But they already suppress our vote. We cannot afford to have our vote suppressed this election cycle. You must call up your Board of Elections, make sure you're on the rolls, okay? And make sure your vote counts. Make sure you cross every T, dot every I. Don't give them any reason to throw it away. If you're in a never state, as disclosed on that show that I'm constantly running into the ground, do not write in ADOS. The whole ballot is thrown out. We've got to deliver a Democratic Congress to the 42% of ADOS who rely on government assistance due to institutional systemic racism. No fault of their own. No fault of their own. Don't expect a people that has been robbed and pillaged to pull themselves up by their bootless straps. You're in denial if you think that that we're on the bottom because of something we've done or did not do. We wouldn't be 35 million strong in this country had we not been pulling ourselves up by our bootless straps. That is what we do best. It's time for that to stop. And it's especially time for ADOS, the lineage, to stop accusing the lesser of us in these downtrodden communities who have been robbed of education, who have been robbed of home lending, who have been robbed of loans for businesses, who have been robbed of jobs that pay an American wage. $15 ain't it when it costs $1,500 a month for a studio in most major city states. Don't you dare come for the less of these. When they are in this position because they made us niggas in the legislation. They are now weaponizing immigration against ADOS to make us the permanent underclass, the permanent bottom caste in the country our ancestors built with their lives. How dare you bury your head, ADOS the lineage, the movement is hip to the games, and somehow think black on black crime and black on black murders in our distressed communities is the fault of the people in those distressed communities. That's what happens when you've been robbed of resources. You inevitably turn on the people you live next door to. Harrison lacks any presidential legacy, but he looms large because of his actions prior to taking office. He is a key figure in the history of America's extermination of the Indian population and its attempts to expand slavery to those areas where the indigenous population had been decimated. In the name of abolitionist. Harrison was a Virginian. He was the son of a slaveholding farmer who was among the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Initially a student of medicine at the University of Pennsylvania, he joined the Army after his father's death, and it was there that Harrison first gained notoriety. Early 1800s, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, and northeastern Minnesota constituted the western frontier of the white American settlement. For most white Americans, there was no frontier. Step by step, they invaded and occupied every region of the indigenous people's country from sea to shining sea. And they were also paid reparations when we were emancipated. While Andrew Johnson took away our 40 acres and a mule and gave us Freedmen's Bureau Bank, of which he left white men in charge who robbed and pillaged all of our savings. This region, then known as the Northwest, was where Harrison earned his reputation as a genocidaire. He made his career in the so-called Northwest Indian War. He fought at the Battle of Fallen Timbers in 1794 and was a signatory of the 1795 Treaty of Greenville, which forced Indians to cede their lands to American settlement. The land that is present-day Indiana thereafter experienced a significant influx of white settlers. Harrison was eventually appointed governor of the Indiana Territory, where he tried to legalize slavery in 1805 and in 1807. This was in direct contradiction of Article 6 of the ordinance that brought the territory into being in 1797. Quote, "There should be neither slavery nor involuntary servitude in the said territory, otherwise than in the punishment of crimes whereof the parties shall have been duly convicted." Sounds like the 13th Amendment. Re-enslave you in jail, in the private prison industrial complex, which Tansy mentioned on a prior show. This is how Clinton's had a surplus when he left office after signing the 94 crime bill by segregationist Jim Crow Joe. They were able to three-strike our brothers, lock them up, and put them into the new form of slavery inside the private prisons, which turned huge profits and left. He was able to leave on the backs of Black men in prison by turning a profit for private prisons. Provided always that any person escaping into the same, from whom labor or service is lawfully claimed in any one of the original states, such fugitive may be lawfully reclaimed and conveyed to the person claiming his or her labor or services as aforesaid. But like slaveholders everywhere, he didn't let a small thing like the law get in his way. Besides, the article was not retroactive. The old French settlers had held slaves for years and had no intention of giving them up. And so Harrison tried to build upon that already existing practice. In 1802, Harrison informed Congress that a very large majority of the citizens wanted to repeal Article 6 and that a convention would be called to formalize that desire. The Vincennes Convention was held on Christmas Day and resulted in a resolution to suspend Article 6 for 10 years, pending congressional approval. Congress denied the request, but Harrison didn't give up. It should be noted that Congress's primary focus with respect to territories becoming states was to maintain the balance between the slave and free states. Ending slavery was not their objective. Neither was our ultimate emancipation. We'll get into it when we hit up Abe Lincoln. As governor of Indiana, Harrison adopted from other states legislation that denied legal rights to non-whites and attempted to circumvent anti-slavery sentiment. A law passed on September 20th, 1803 denied, quote, Negroes, mulattoes, and Indians, close quote, the right to testify against whites in court. An 1805 law made it legal to bring slaves to Indiana and convert them to indentured servants. Slaves marked an X on a document that made them indentured servants for a specified period of time or indefinitely. Slavery by another name, you see? We've always been slaves. Children inherited their parents' indentured status for a period of at least 2 years. Puts William Dickens on my mind. Shout out ADOS Triangle. William Dickens has been on my show to share about how he came from a sharecropping family and was a sharecropper himself. He's younger than me in the ADOS movement. Just inheriting and eating the cost of slavery for over 400 years now and counting. Whites, that's on a prior show if you want to go check out the archives. White settlement had not yet driven out the indigenous population, but as territorial governor of Indiana, Harrison set out to change that. Accommodationist Indian leaders agreed to sell thousands of acres to the new territory, hoping to save something for their people. Tecumseh and his brother Tenskwatawa then led a confederation of tribes in resistance and attempted to get British support against the Americans. Harrison led his forces against Tenskwatawa in 1811 at what came to be known as the Battle of Tippecanoe, a victory that inspired a song used in Harrison's 1840 presidential campaign. Tippecanoe and Tyler too. As the indigenous population was driven out, the 1805 Act undermined what had been considered a ban on slavery in the territory. Harrison was a slaveholder his whole life and is said to have fathered 6 children with an enslaved woman named Dilcia. One of their descendants was Walter White, who served as chairman of the NAACP from 31 until his death in 55. Harrison was the attempts to change the Northwest Ordinance anti-slavery provisions failed for the simple reason that there were more non-slaveholding whites than slaveholders. Slaveholding settlers simply went farther west to Missouri and Arkansas, where they faced no legal jeopardy. Those who were not slaveholding went to the Northwestern territories precisely to escape the slave powers, whose system diminished their ability to thrive economically. Harrison was caught in the tangle when he ran for Congress in the neighboring state of Ohio in 1822. Knowing of the free soil anti-slavery sentiment there, he fashioned himself as an abolitionist. I am accused of being, quote, I am accused of being friendly to slavery. From my earliest youth to the present moment, I have been an ardent friend of human liberty. At the age of 18, I became a member of an abolition society established in Richmond, Virginia, the object of which was to ameliorate the condition of slaves and procure their freedom by every legal means, close quote. That statement came back to haunt him during the 1840 presidential election. So you know he backpedaled, because he was never an abolitionist to begin with. Lying politicians. To this day. Political expediency forced him to backpedal and deny the sentiments he had expressed nearly 20 years earlier. In answer to the inquiry why I used the word abolition in designating a society of which I was a member in Richmond in the year 1791 instead of the word humane, which is known to be the one by which the society was really distinguished, all that I can say upon the subject is that if I did term it an abolition society, a fact which I can hardly believe, as he clutched his invisible pearls, for I have not been able to see the paper containing my address to the people of the district in 1822. It must have been forgetfulness, which might easily happen after a lapse of 21 years. At any rate, abolition was not understood to mean in 1822 what it now means. You see the puckery? Like the other early presidents, Harrison expanded U.S. territory, drove the indigenous population from their homelands, and fought to expand slavery. His legacy was forged many years before his very brief presidency. Those actions were significant and helped set the stage for conflict and eventually a civil war. I'll get to your comments, family. What's up, Shay Coulter? ADOS Newark, New Jersey. Thank you for joining the live. Let's get on to John Tyler, 1841 to 1845. This is shorter than the last. And then we'll read the comments and close out the show. We're at 34:14. William Henry Harrison died 1 month after his inauguration, and John Tyler became the first president to hold office who had not been elected. He became known by the moniker His Excellency, me speaking. This is what I anticipate will happen with Joe Biden. His dementia is going to seat him down in about 2 years for Kamala to take it over. And the Democrats are going to have 12 years if we don't shut this down. Wait for it. If they win, which we're working tediously to ensure they don't. You don't get to make anyone American before making us whole. That's not how any of this works. You don't get trillions for war, trillions to line your own pockets, trillions to prop up the stock market, trillions to make a pathway to citizenship for Brahmin Indian caste, and Hispanics before cutting us that check in the trillions over multi-generations. That's not how any of this works. ADOS rising, we are here. We see you. Eyes wide open. Tyler's biographical information invariably describes him as coming from an old Virginia family. And while I'm on the subject, forgive me, how dare the DNC give a second woman who descends from slave owners an opportunity and a pathway to the presidency in one generation before ADOS, who have been your mules for over 55 years and counting. How dare you try to put this woman before us as if she's ADOS when she descends from Brahmin Indian caste, which is white in India. We are the Dalits. Just look it up. Martin Luther King took a trip over to India and he was appalled to learn that the untouchables, the Dalits of India, are ADOS in this country that our ancestors built with their lives. And her father is Indian Jamaican, and he admits in one of his pieces, look it up, that he descends from slave owners. And he seems very proud of that. So how dare you put descendants of slave owners and black white people in charge of this country before you give a full-chested ADOS for reparations and a black agenda an opportunity to run this country. Distinction is not division. Tyler's biographical information invariably describes him as coming from an old Virginia family. Old is a covert way of saying slaveholding, and the Tylers fit that definition. Tyler never backed away from viewing slavery as a benevolent institution. As a member of Congress, he voted against the Missouri Compromise because it established that the federal government could, in fact, regulate slavery, while others in his economic class welcomed the coming of another slave state to the Union. Tyler never considered compromising. He served only one term as president, but he made good use of his time by completing the annexation of Texas before he left office. He succeeded in part by spreading an obvious lie about British plans to annex the Republic of Texas and turn it into a haven for runaway slaves. The annexation question went through various permutations. Under one plan, it was to be admitted not as one state, but as two, one free and one slave. Other proposals called for it to be split into as many as 5 states, increasing slavocracy representation. Tyler sought help in making the case for annexation from Senator Robert Walker. Walker was born in Pennsylvania but settled in Mississippi and represented that state. He wisely decided not to make the case for annexation by advocating the expansion of slavery. Instead, he wrote a lie, claiming that annexation would result in the end of slavery. Ooh, they some lying, thieving devils. He penned a 32-page pamphlet titled Letter of Mr. Walker of Mississippi relative to the annexation of Texas. Walker argued that Texas would be a safety valve for the internal colonization of Black people who might become a labor force for Mexico and the rest of Central America. He claimed that Texas annexation would eventually empty the U.S. of Black people and make the country all white. His idea appealed to Northerners who feared the presence of Black people. It helped the slavocracy by covertly assisting their plan to create another slave state. You see the sleight of hand? What's up, Assam Powell? Texwell, the Wiz. Thank you guys for joining the live. I'm almost done, and then we can get in it. Distinction is not division, sugar. You got that right, darling. Oh, oh, oh. The games these politicians play, these presidents play, the way they just weaponize everything against ADOS. If you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it. Stop voting against your own interests. Grow a backbone. We've known suffering since they dragged us here. since we were sold into chattel slavery, sold and stolen into chattel slavery. You get a trifecta, this will be us all over again. If we lock it down, if Trump gets the top of the ticket in the Democratic Congress, they can't do any more harm to ADOS for the next 4 years until we force their hand. That is the only strategy we've got left. We have no money to be at the table politically, and that's why they have nothing for you with any teeth in it. Lost my place, getting all off my high horse. Let me just focus. The Texas annexation was a classic case of a wink wink that allowed all parties to lie. Northerners had an out since they were able to pretend that another slave state was not being added to the Union. Southerners went along with the insincere scenario so as to get what they wanted. James Polk's victory in the fall of 1844 was considered a mandate for expansion. When all was said and done, the Texas annexation bill was passed and Tyler signed it into law with only 2 days left in office. Later, Tyler became a member of the Confederate Congress. In retrospect, Tyler is generally regarded as one of the less influential and less effective presidents. He was not elected and did not campaign for the office himself. Yet annexing Texas was a tremendous political victory, and he ought to be regarded as a president who succeeded in enhancing the worst aspects of American colonization. Texas annexation was a huge victory for the slaveocracy. Reason enough, clicked on something, family. Reason enough for history to not treat Tyler kindly. Presidents are sometimes considered successful if they get what they want, and Tyler got something very important that he desired. Acknowledging that fact is a reminder of American presidents' pro-slavery stance. Join me tomorrow for James K. Polk, 1845 to 1849, and Zachary Taylor. We got some catching up to do. Anywho, let me go to my co-host, my illustrious family in the chat. I'm going to seek a way for you guys to call in to contribute to the conversation so everybody can hear you. Okay, let's see here. Jay Bird says, truth is truth. Even if the truth hurts, even if it hurts one's feelings, the truth still remains. Amen, Jay Bird. I'm here, sis. Thank you, Mike Michelson, for that get jobs too. Thank you, Teach. Okay, let's see if there's anything I've got to share. Yes, I've heard. Okay, so Mario Holloway, yes, I've heard that they could throw the whole ballot out. You absolutely have to understand and spread the word to all of the movement and allies. We must fill in Green Party top of ticket if it's being offered in our states. I would advise staying away from filling in ADOS. They will know by the outcome that we came and saw nothing. Hence why we could only deliver a Democratic Congress, which we know is our dog whistle to protect the 42% of us who rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism. I will leave it blank if there's no offerings from the Green Party top of that ticket. I promise you, they're going to find any reason to reject our votes. I told you guys at the last show with Tansy, 28 million votes disappeared over the last 4 election cycles. We cannot afford, with the suppression of our votes by the Republicans, to have any additional votes suppressed. Everybody needs to show up to the polls. All ADOS on deck. This is the part where everybody gets to be a member of the movement. Mario Holloway. She was born in Compton, raised in and watched and everywhere in LA, including Skid Row. Absolutely. 90% of us are on Skid Row. We're 44% degree, 6% of the private sector. $200 liquid to Kamala's people, $245,000 liquid to African immigrants, $60,000 liquid. Institutional systemic racism. They took affirmative action away in 96. The ADOS, shout out to ADOS California and all of the movement who has been involved with our hearings out here, phoning in to demand affirmative action, get on the ballot this election cycle. We're winning, family. Lean in. We are winning. Kunta says 13th Amendment makes slavery legal. By another name, private prison industrial complex. Kunta says, I know a guy that has a friend that lives on their slave master's plantation in Mississippi to this day. And folks want to be in denial that this is still existing for far too many ADOS. None of us are free until we're all free. We're on that community upliftment, not self-individualism. Tear it down, burn it to the ground. Because when the rest are comfortable, they'll go home. We'll be the only ones still being executed by the race soldiers, still being locked up for petty crimes, and still being denied access to be American. How many more years are we going to do this? How many more years are we going to do the two-step, lesser two evil two-step shuffle all the way to our peril? It stops this election cycle henceforth. We're going to be disruptors, and we're going to be bringing on more woke boomer, woke Gen Xer, and woke millennial to help us move this weight until it falls. We've got everything to lose. Income is not wealth. White folks share $100 trillion to ADOS, 90% of the blacks in this country, $700 billion. Nobody can tell me but for reparations how to close a $100 trillion egregious racial wealth gap. That's why we fight, because being poor makes you a target in this country. Kunta says, my God, please don't allow Biden to take office. We're going to do everything in our power to stop it. Kunta, oh my goodness, I jumped too far. Kunta said, they are trying to the same with Kamala as they did with Obama. Absolutely. And guess who her biggest, staunchest supporters are? Hillary Clinton's people. That's Hillary's girl. That's the way Hillary continued to pull the strings. You talk about the apocalypse. Had Hillary been elected, she got Gaddafi killed. Drone strikes under Obama. 100,000 bombs dropped under Obama. They ran out of bombs. 8 more wars created under Obama. And we ran for 2 terms. Some of us woke up after the first term. I didn't. Guilty as charged, but I'm woke now. And I will tear it down before any more harm comes to my people. We just will all, let's socialize this suffering, as Tansy said so eloquently on my show. Let's socialize the suffering. Yeah, I believe that Kamala is being set up to take it over and that the Democrats are trying to get 12 years. Because she'll still have 2 more terms if she takes over from Biden's dementia in 2. That's my prediction based on reading the tea leaves. It can't happen. I love you, Black and Strong, my Jaybird. Angela, I love your dramatic commentary. Guess who's more dramatic than me? That Michi X. And she a cussing one. I at least try not to cuss, Mike Michelson. Yes, I'm a drama queen. That's how God made me. To ring the alarm in the most dramatic fashion. He made us all so wonderfully and beautifully. Oh, we are such a magnanimous people. I love y'all, Black and Strong. Yes, I do. Kunta says, it's sad, but politics have made the people in office wealthy. Yes, they have. Oh, and on that point, Kunta, they have never done anything productive for ADOS. Well, like I said, some progress was made for the boomers. And even some of us Gen Xers. I consider myself a unicorn. I'm doing okay, but my job too is on the line. Not enough work. So, I've made investments and done with what I have, what I can. I've got property. I've done well for myself. I'm educated. I do well for myself. Okay. But the problem is 90% of us don't do well. It's not enough for 10% of us to do okay. And we're not even, ADOS is not even all of that 10%. That 10% is mostly comprised of Black immigrants. Okay, there's some lap over between groups, some sharing the 700 billion, some sharing the 2.3 trillion, but very little. All it takes is 150,000 a year to be in the 10% in this country. While white folks' median income is about what, 355,000 down here? Kamala's Asian Indian, I think they're around 406,000 down here. That's no money. So we're fighting for the less of these because the majority of us are the less thans. Okay, trying to scroll down. We're almost done. Okay. Oh, back to your point. It's sad, but politics have made the people in office wealthy. See, some people want to sit up here and really disparage the ADOS movement for coming down hard on the Black white supremacist. Yes, white supremacy can be Black. It absolutely is. To Kunta's point, they're in office. They're not working for our interests. They're working for the interests of money. That's why please vote for Tamara Johnson-Shealy. She's running for U.S. Georgia Senate. Okay? You guys need to go to her site, tamaraforgeorgia.com, donate, support, volunteer. She is the only ADOS running for Congress that's full-chested about our reparations and Black agenda. And until we replace the current Congress with her ilk, we will continue to spiral further and further out of control to our own peril. We need to replace who's currently in there because they're all bought and paid for. I don't care that they look like us. Because the definition of racist means you've got the wealth position to oppress. And when our leaders don't speak loud about what's happening, don't demand that private prisons be dismantled, don't demand that qualified immunity be dismantled, don't demand reparations and a Black agenda for ADOS, then you're a white supremacist in a Black face. You're a racist because you are okay, but you're not fighting for the people that put you in office. So please don't come to me about how dare you be racist against your own people. I can't be a racist against my own people. I don't have the money to oppress our leadership that looks like me. So I can't be a racist against my own people, but I can sure enough call out the Black white supremacists, and I do so proudly because I need ADOS to see the devil's in blackface, Kamala, Obama included. You hurt my people, I come for you, and I expose you. You descend from slave owners, and you're as bad as our oppressors. You're worse because you look like us, but you're not one of us. Hassan says we must ensure our votes are not disposed of. Make sure you know your state laws before you alter your ballot. We must, let me put this up. We must ensure our votes are not disposed of. Make sure you know your state laws before you alter the ballot. Felina, I see you, sister. Thank you for joining the live. This is Ohio Rep Green Party. I'm pushing it, Felina. Planning the first presidential debate protest here in Cleveland on September 29th. Let me know if you want me to speak on this. Yeah. You know my number, girl. Inbox me. You can come on tomorrow. And get me Angela Walker. They got ADOS running on that ticket. This is Felina Irene Farley. She is the Ohio State rep for the Green Party. She's been on my show. And Felina, I don't know if you saw at the top of the show, but I'm pushing Green Party in all the spaces. To please, Felina, And the VP that's running, Angela Walker, is ADOS. Not Jamaican, not Brahmin, Indian, not white, not Kenyan. ADOS, single mom, truck driver. She needs our vote. They need our support. We need to get them to 10% so that they can be on every ballot henceforth. So yes, Felina, you're always welcome on my show. Hit me up. I can bring you on tomorrow before I do my other two presidents. Eric Blackfire, thank you for joining the live. Love you, hate Michi. Oh, don't hate her, brother. I know she's not for everyone. I'm not one for all the expletives, but I do love her passion for the ADOS people and for the ADOS movement. Don't hate, brother. We don't want to be like our oppressors. We don't hate. Let's just agree to disagree and tune in to Angela Nirvana Presents Friends of ADOS TV. You have a home here with me always. Thank you for joining the live. Kunta, wow, you are right. If Kamala takes office after Biden, she will be able to run for office for 2 more terms. That's what they're setting the stage for, darlings. That's Hillary Clinton's girl. They're pulling all those strings. So Hillary can still be the president. They own Kamala. Her donors own Kamala. Corporate owns them both. Son, if you're not aware of your state election laws, choose Green Party for the presidential seat. They're going to lose regardless, and no, we are not endorsing them. We are ensuring our vote doesn't get thrown out. We must protect our vote. We're still vetting the Green Party to see if that's a permanent home for ADOS movement. That's way down the line. This election cycle, we need to leverage Green Party to ensure our ballots count. You fill in ADOS in another state, the whole ballot gets thrown out. We have made the contact with Angela Walker. Praise God. I need her on my show, Hassan. Please, 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 please. I need her to come talk to the people. Okay, family. Well, with that said, that's our show in 57 minutes. I'm getting better, family. Yay. Oh, with that said, family, let me just pray us out. For those of us who like to be reminded of how awesome we are, I'm going to do my prayer of protection. For those of you who don't like prayer, I love you black and strong. But for those of you who do, listen here. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever ADOS and its allies are, God truly is. Because guess what, family? You are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Yes, you are, family. Until tomorrow, 6 o'clock, you go out here in these streets and know who you are. And you make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening. I love you, black. I love you, strong. Ciao for now, family. Peace. Share, share, share.